Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
My name is Margaret Shugrue, and I manage the what we call run and change operation for digital services at Northern Trust. Northern Trust is a wealth management company that is based out of Chicago. It has offices all around the country and across the world. And I'm very delighted to embark upon this endeavor to help drive adoption of new digital capabilities and build awareness about what our future state will look like. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how all of you can lead and manage these change situations that can be encumbered with a lot of resistance, and what you can do to help your employees or your team members to cope with the change. So I'm going to start out and talk a little bit about why do we, allow change? And there's several reasons, right? So it's to reach new audiences, it's to adapt to market changes, it's to restructure and upgrade, rebrand, or implement new processes. And maybe we seek to solve problems and rid ourselves from bureaucracy creep. No matter the ambition, you can implement organizational change and emerge stronger on the other side. No mincing words, change can be tough. It's never a breeze, and there's no one size fits all approach, no panacea that is infallible, irrespective of the situation. If you're leading a change or simply marshaling a change on behalf of your team, it is essential to have a tailored and well-prepared plan to deliver the results you desire, and more so to circumvent avoidable missteps along your journey. Organizations often they overestimate their users' willingness to change or adopt, and underestimate the amount of change and work that it entails. So I hope to demystify what I've learned in my role leading change for a large-scale digital transformation at a 130-year-old company where we're reinventing ourselves in a digital era. The word change does not usually evoke warm fuzzies, except maybe when we are mapping out New Year's resolutions and plotting a better me for next year. All well-intended, but many of those New Year's resolutions, just like change initiatives, encounter friction or a rationalization of not fulfilling the original intention, and then the best laid plans begin to crumble. But realistically, at many junctures in our lives, we have changed and survived. It wasn't necessarily as scary as we may have expected. Honestly, at a personal level, it almost seems more natural. It's life. Imagine if you still walked around with Walkmans and flip phones. Imagine writing checks for every transaction you may have versus using a debit card or online bill pay. Imagine not having a virtual option to enter a meeting, which seemed completely foreign just 2 years ago. Were you upset when you were affected by these small changes at a time? Maybe you had to change a routine or learn something new, but you pivoted and realized it wasn't too complicated. So part of change is reminding people that they've done it before and they can wade through the disruption to get to the other side. So let's talk through the steps you can customize for your own circumstances to contend with the inevitable hurdles you are likely to encounter. So let's start with setting the stage for acceptance. Change causes anxiety because you're dealing with the unknown. And unless you quickly frame the narrative of what's to come, a natural reflex is to become either one, frozen with fear, or a derailer. It's a defensive mechanism. So without a vision of better, what happens is ambiguity creeps in like a contagion. So what happens? Members of your team will insist on taking the default path, the most familiar path. This allows inertia and decision paralysis to fester and keeps people doing things the old way, the status quo. So ambiguity is the enemy. As a result, you have to win the hearts and minds early and succinctly describe the aspirational future state where we will arrive if we all travel together. When you announce a change or your manager declares a change, it starts a chain reaction. So what's the zenith you're seeking? What goal are you chasing that is deserving of your team's time, attention, energy, and excitement? They need to know. So you've got to make sure it's bold enough and worth striving for. It needs to draw people in and not be fear-based or punitive. You've got to help them see the possibilities and not the danger. Consider times when someone has heralded in a change from the vantage point that, employees will be in trouble for lack of compliance or punished. This is starkly different than creating an elevator pitch which paints an alluring picture for your organization, something where the mountain may be difficult to climb, but the views are unbeatable. So to help set the stage, I'll share a few strategies we have used so far in my digital transformation that you can apply to your own organizational effort. Bottom line, you have to let everyone in the organization know where you are headed. So let me jump to the next slide and we'll dig a little bit deeper on the setting the stage for acceptance. So first, what we did at my company is we extrapolated the change to discern several angles our employees would expectedly use to process impact. In our case, to illustrate the problem we are attempting to solve, we chunked it up into slices to describe, according to pain points experienced by both our clients and our employees, what we call partners at Northern Trust, based upon research and feedback loops. Foundationally, this provided us with concrete evidence of improvements we had to make to catapult our business forward. We also identified what's the competition doing. And because we made the decision to undergo digital transformation through the lens of client end-to-end experiences, we expanded our purview to consider the multiple touch points with non-financial organizations and how these were influencing client perceptions. So if you can buy groceries online and have them delivered to your house, you should be able to initiate the enrollment of new accounts without paper. If you're fed suggestions on similar products to purchase on Amazon, we should be able to generate advice-based content clients can consume based on life milestones. So we really adjusted our thinking to be much more universal outside of financial services. And then finally, what is our future ambition and where are our growth opportunities? An example here is that our affluent clients tend to skew older. So the assumption we needed to overcome internally is that our clients are not comfortable with digital options. They have an adverse reaction to conducting any business online versus through, their primary relationship manager. Well, the pandemic helped to permanently squash that assumption. Older Americans acquired digital fluency in order to maintain social circles, purchase products and services. Moreover, our clients are becoming younger and their expectations as digital natives relate to access and convenience. It requires that digital first option mentality. So we need to make the sacrifices and investment today to successfully go after the client of tomorrow. As a result, we fleshed out these storylines to provide a clear synopsis of our why. So we have to build that why. We then added a moniker to distinguish our journey. We called it digital metamorphosis rather than digital transformation. And we flat out called it a profound change so as not to minimize our motivation. We really sought to spark the flames of our large scale endeavor. So you can see how we're kind of creating that psychological narrative around what we're embarking upon. We then carefully crafted our operating principles and our North Star vision. We were radicalizing how we built new capabilities. It was out of the box and brought new methodologies that frankly were foreign to our established norms that used to feel very comfortable and easy. We were introducing data and AI, agile sprints, and design thinking to our processes. These were unknown just, a couple of years ago. It was impressive, forward-thinking, bold, and confident, and it got our employees' attention. And then we took our core story and creatively reversioned it using visual imagery, stories, facts, and figures, recognizing that everyone assimilates information differently. We needed to ensure it achieved absorption, and that meant there was no silver bullet that created a one version that everyone could favorably respond to. Messaging is then bundled into several versions. We tailor the communication into specific groups and ensure that the messages resonate with these different audiences. Reinforcement is imperative through every foreseeable channel where employees retrieve information. So we created an internal intranet site, and that contained a collection of all updates, really a one-stop shop where our employees could retrieve the overview for each stage of digital metamorphosis, along with Q&As, human interest stories, and link to adjacent artifacts. We also took advantage of town halls to breed familiarity with our game plan. We used other news channels at our disposal, including things like Teams, email, Yammer, maybe you have Slack. And we quickly collected testimonials that we showcased with prominence to signal what we were doing and how it was working. We created a logo. It's so easy to create logos now. So it didn't require getting an advertising agency. Even my daughter in her digital job at a tech company can create logos on the side. So we created a logo and slapped it on everything, including swag we could hand out. We attached it to all of our presentations. And because it was internal, we had more license to dress it up and make it fun, not to conform to strict branding standards. We selected bright primary colors, which are psychologically associated with breakthrough technology. The one idea that generated a ton of buzz to build momentum for our change effort, and this is really easy to do no matter your size of your organization, is we design virtual backgrounds. So we engage in a ton of meetings with teams who are evaluating the risks and rewards of adopting the new behaviors. And for each new capability we deliver, we designed a fun virtual background, which sets the tone that the change is bona fide and ignites interest and curiosity and inspires a better future. So I think we have like 24 different virtual backgrounds. So anybody can turn them on and change them to spark awareness. Okay, so headed back, we've learned that's better to get the why communicated early on to avoid mixed messages at later stages of the project. So once you've paid the price of admission to rationalize the change, it's time to venture forward with some of these other strategies. One of the best tools to enhance the quality of our investments is embedding a test and learn approach, greater experimentation and continuous learning loops. And because a cultural transformation underpins our digital transformation, there's always new ideas in the market. So feedback achieves two things. One, proof of concept for us to establish if it creates value, and then proof of feasibility to ensure replication. Collecting feedback has been a game changer. It's instrumental to ensure our changes are hitting the mark. We really invite an honest reaction, comments and criticisms, all opinions, to gain a clear understanding of obstacles that will spur resistance. And it allows us to chart benchmarks along the way. Furthermore, it demonstrates our commitment to have a two-way dialogue. So this ensures it will land better, the messaging, the new technology, which raises the probability of our success. Suddenly, the change is not imposed upon employees who are impacted, but they feel like they're co-creators. We have also found piloting the capability on a limited scale is immeasurably beneficial. So if your company is proposing rolling out a new capability to all employees concurrently, you might recognize the wisdom of introducing it to a smaller group, creating an environment that simulates real use cases and gathering inputs on what worked well. I can tell you, even after launching over a dozen pilots in the last couple of years, a pilot will always produce an insight I never anticipated, and we can leverage this to refine our launch plan. In my case, it sometimes means, a cautionary yellow light goes on, or the red light signals that we need to modify the development of a version and have further adjustments. Sometimes it just means, tweaks to the training and communications to overcome points of confusion that could slow down our progress. But small groups where you're gaining feedback, you're asking your employees their opinion on something really matters in terms of driving adoption. So testing is like a lab experiment. We can gain assurances that the design and the function and the reliability is validated. And this generates a positive reaction before propagating it to the masses. And even on a smaller scale, if you can test out the response before magnifying the solution to everyone impacted, you suddenly have a yardstick to measure effectiveness. I do this often with small groups. Just ask them, and no matter what their role, if they're in a, for example, client-facing position that's going to be impacted by the change, I want their opinion, whether that's anywhere from the more entry-level positions all the way up to the senior roles. They feel like they're part of the process. All right, so let's cover the other remaining steps. A big one is readiness quotient. Your employees can't learn by osmosis. There must be a training component to upskill and outfit them with the how. We talked about the why, now about the how. Knowledge transfer can happen in multiple ways. Perhaps you have training resources at your disposal. Got to make sure your team takes that training. Even better if the curriculum can be tailored to employee segments. Every change impacts roles differently. So the coursework should reflect specific functions as opposed to be a one-size-fits-all approach. If you don't have the luxury of customization, utilize a shadow system whereby the employee is linked with a leader or someone who has already, assimilated that change. They've adapted and they're exhibiting the new behavior consistently. This significantly improves your probability of success. If you can diversify training assets like storytelling, redundancy is a critical ingredient. One thing we've done is producing a lot more short sneak peek videos to describe the required elements of the change in just a crisp 3 to 4 minute video. So this allows us to blanket a cross section of affected stakeholders without requiring everyone to complete coursework, maybe that consumes an hour of their time, especially if some partner roles are only tangentially impacted. So be clever about the ways you train partners to get them to understand the how, whether that's shadowing, it's a training coursework, it's videos, it's something where they feel like they have the know-how in their possession to activate that new behavior. Actually, if you could go back, I wanted to make another point on the last one part. Apologies. I'm going to talk a little bit about generating metrics. So if you just jump back to the last slide, if you can go backwards, thank you. The power of reporting, I do want to touch upon this. We've all heard that what gets measured gets done. People want to know what's their target. What do you expect of me? And they want a non-subjective way of measuring if we are hitting a goal. Pulling metrics on a routine basis keeps behavior change top of mind. Leaders cannot suspend reality and pretend the desired change is occurring, or employees can't as well, when the numbers tell a different story. So we've generated a structured approach to earn, in future investment of our finite capital that is predicated on performance. To earn the right to continue a project requires metric visibility and transparency. It's not done via a handshake deal behind closed doors. I love the new era of transparency. I cannot underscore how setting a simple goal as you embark upon change helps to get employees to surround the challenge and rise to the occasion. When we launched one of our early digital capabilities, we had objectives sketched out, but they really lacked an unfussy kind of plainness that makes a goal within reach, that everyone understood. They all were centered around that goal. So we adjusted to one stretch goal that teams could pull off if they pushed themselves. The beauty of the ripple effect, once the momentum starts, peer pressure can also be a beautiful thing. So leaders pull laggards, and the final, about 20% we find finally acquiesce after exhibiting resistance, realizing that their claims of injustice and hardship are falling on deaf ears. But it helps to have that push of about 80%, where they feel like, I nailed the goal, and they get really excited about it. And then as everyone moves to meeting that mark, you can raise the goal again. So it's small bites. Talk a little bit about leveraging stakeholders. When you study organizational change, one of the first things you'll read about is leadership buy-in. Because they are in charge of execution, they must be well-versed with the change landscape, including the threats and opportunities that your change effort entails. Equally important are regular interactions with the team, keeping them informed about the process and discussing strategies to ensure there is no backpedaling relative to their initial commitment. You can't afford misaligned leadership. This is so important. When employees see that their leadership is scattered, they'll likely lose faith in the whole idea together. They must be on the same page about strategy and goals. So if you see a diversion of this with leadership, call them out. Talk about the importance of having a united front. You've got to be in lockstep around a uniform message. And frankly, if they aren't talking about the change as part of broader objectives for the company, the change stands out as an anomaly, kind of unconnected and unimportant to the big goals of where your company is going. So take advantage of leaders as your endorsers. Get them talking about it emphatically during every employee touch point. Stakeholders are also peer influencers. Their prioritization of your change gives you a big leg up, building a circle of believers. Remember, for example, how you might go visit a new city and how you picked a restaurant. Several years back, you may have looked at where people congregated. You saw, the hot spots because there were a lot of people packed in the window as you're peering through. Now you might peruse reviews on Yelp. In these cases, your decision might be influenced by a stranger, but it powerfully depicts that peer perceptions matter. So consider, who are other influencers? Who do people listen to? Who do they want to see take that first step into doing something that feels uncomfortable? And they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. Ask them to be part of their circle of trailblazers. Managing the mood. It is human nature to resist change. The best way to address this is to ensure inclusion throughout the change process, identifying and understanding why the change is needed, enabling the individual to adapt to the change, and clarifying the implications of the change to each unique end user. You have to calibrate this change with others the employee may be undergoing too. You can't myopically focus on one change that is affecting you and your team. You have to look at the entire ecosystem, because frankly, there's a saturation threshold that needs to be top of mind. If there's too much change running in parallel, it could negatively impact the overall effectiveness of the change initiative that you're standing up. How to manage the mood? There's lots of ways to keep it fresh, especially mid-course when fatigue may be setting in. We have used competitions between teams and broadcast winners. We've held events, TED Talk-esque, leaders displaying an upbeat passion for the change, outside industry leaders talking about how we're on the cusp of cutting edge new technology. And most importantly, that we find above all of those other sort of kitschy things that we can do to keep partners to be part of the circle, is we talk to other employees who were those trailblazers, and they can articulate their excitement about pioneering a new capability. This fills our tank and produces an emotional, high-spirited attachment to lean in. Finally, scaling and stabilizing to prevent backsliding. When the change is activated, the work is not over. It must be sustained. So reminders of the why are necessary to keep replicating the behavior and weave it into the fabric of your operating model. So don't let down your guard. We know sometimes at some point you're going to feel tired and you feel like a broken record, but just keep going. Last lever I just wanted to point out that we use is outlining expected action items for everything we produce and deliver to both leadership and the field. We set an expectation. Here's what we needed you to do. Every message we generate is coupled by an exact ask of what they need to contribute to meet our goal. So we don't expect them to kind of figure that out on their own. We're very exact, we're very precise, and that grounds them in the mission. We understand that there are employees who are excited. There are employees who are somewhat undecided, and there are employees who are resistant to change. There's a spectrum, right? So we've got to accommodate that spectrum to bring everyone together. So how to beat the odds? If you're expected to lead a movement, asking people to go on a tough journey, create a sense of openness where you're headed, and encourage them to assume that mantle of leadership themselves. Have a bias for action, a sense of agency, and a determined spirit. Finally, ask them, are you with me? Thank you.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or a networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.